All right. Hello, everyone. I can see people trickling in. This was a popular topic, one that a lot of individuals were excited about. So, glad to have you here. We have people from all across the country joining, some from here in New England. So happy to have you all here. While people are joining, I see them filtering in. Give a little intro on myself and Brassbound. So I'm Peter Anania. I'm the CEO here at Brassbound. We're a full service advertising agency. We do a lot of websites, videos, brands, marketing for companies, a lot of business to business and professional services. My background is I was CMO of a private equity firm. I was in charge of doing the growth marketing for the acquisition companies that we acquired. And I would get them growth marketing strategies in place so that they could grow and eventually become acquired or go public. Then I transitioned into starting my own agency, got really into business to business and professional services, and sort of the rest is history. So this is a great topic. Marketing without compromise. How do we grow visibility without losing trust? Very, very important for those within professional services. So got a lot to cover. I say we dig right in here. Starting off with, who is this webinar for? Okay, I designed this specifically for professional services firms, law firms, accounting firms. We call AEC, architects, engineers, construction, insurance, business to business. Really professional services and some firms that are business to business outside of professional services. And these are firms that, trust matters. Trust matters. I have right here. Trust matters more than tactics, but trust and reputation are really number one for these firms. So if that sounds like you and your firm, then you're at the right place. Firms who referrals, reputation, or relationships drive opportunity. So at a law firm, we know it's referrals. We know it's relationships. Sometimes it's boots on the ground. It's also reputation. So what we're going to be talking about is, yes, that is the case. That is what drives opportunity. But how do we sort of close that loop and make sure that we have the active presence and brand out there to support our business development efforts? Also, if you have a long buying cycle, I know that's true in law. I know that's true in AEC. We're going to be talking about how to do appropriate touch points with that long buying cycle, appropriate marketing touch points. And then, those who are worried, want their visibility to reinforce credibility. They're not worried about vanity metrics. Okay. And this will go into the next slide, but if you've been burned because you felt like marketing was misaligned, you had an outside agency that just didn't seem to get your industry voice or the technical aspects of what you do, this webinar is for you. Okay, so what we hear, and this relates to the last slide, what we hear and what we see, okay? Um, oh, Franco on my team's just telling me he can hear me. Sorry. Thanks, Franco. Let's see. So what we see as an agency is we hear this. No one seems to understand our industry or our voice. Okay. We're in professional services. It's technical. Agencies, they just can't, marketing professionals, they just can't seem to understand our industry or our voice. This is what we hear. What we see momentum spike with marketing and then stall. CEO, managing partner, oh, we've got to do marketing in 2025. We get a couple press releases out, we get one earned placement, we do a little bit of social, and then it stalls and we stop. What we hear, we tried marketing before, it was a disaster. There was no plan, no organizations. What we see a lot of great organizations out there, I just had a meeting with an amazing organization yesterday, doing everything internally correctly. Their challenge is, attracting. They're an AEC. It's attracting new team members. Just a great culture, doing everything right, but they just weren't sharing it externally. They were missing that piece, so they were too quiet. Um, and then what we hear, we know we need a presence. We just don't get it wrong. We just don't want to get it wrong. So this is the managing partner. This is a CEO. They know they need the active presence to back up the referrals, the reputation, the boots on the grounds, the things that are working. They know they need it, but they just don't want to get it wrong. So before we jump in, I have a little bit of an analogy here for what we're trying to do, and I want us to think about what the world would be like without a thermostat. And you want to know why? Because I'm here in Maine, up in New England, and it's cold right now. So I'm thinking of thermostats. Before the thermostat, in buildings in New England, like the old building I'm in right now, we had the coal furnace, and there was no way to adjust that furnace. We had to go down in the basement. We had to stoke it, or we had to stoke a fire. It was hot, cold, hot, cold. Really tough in the wintertime. And then this gentleman right here, Albert, interesting last name, Albert Butts. He invented what was one of the first thermostats. And it was really a damper that in a coal furnace, it would, depending on the heat, it would automatically open a little bit, let air go in, and then the temperature would be perfect and it would be consistent. Okay. So I want us to think about, the thermostat, what an important invention, and how it changed our lives, especially up here in New England. And our marketing program, to market without compromise, we need a thermostat. We need something to keep us consistent. And we don't want that little space heater that I know some people have in the office and it has on off, hot, cold, hot, cold. No, we want nice, consistent marketing, much like a thermostat works, to make sure that we have the presence that lives up to our brand and the work we're doing in the field, or the work our team members or attorneys are doing. Okay, so we're gonna jump in. I've got specific tactics, but I want to just talk a little bit about strategy. Then I'm gonna show you. I think it's really important to create a model, even a simple model, when we're doing marketing. So I'm just gonna show you how our team does that. But where do we start? I recommend every organization, we need to start with a strategy. I'm gonna go over this quickly. But when we're talking about marketing without compromise, we're talking about building visibility without losing trust. It starts with a strategy. So I've done a lot of strategies over the last 15 years. Franco, who's pinging me and raising his hand on this webinar, because I think he wants to chime in and talk a little bit. But he and I are every day we're working on, even if it's in a proposal and it's just a short strategy for a client. But if you're working internally or with an external consultant, here's the things I recommend being in a strategy. And if you are in-house, it's okay. You can do this yourself in-house, your in-house team. First, organizational overview, just an overview of your organization and any positioning you have, where you think you're positioned in the marketplace specifically. And then also in your strategy, I want you to have your mission, vision, and core values. This can be tough because you might not have it. Hopefully you do. You have done some of this mission, vision, and value work. But this sort of foundational brand element has to be in your strategy. You need to have brand voice documents and any sort of messaging that you've worked on, any brand messaging that you worked on. You need a brand and digital audit. So what do we do when we're building a strategy? What does that look like? I recommend taking screenshots of your business cards, your collaterals, your RFPs, everything. I want you to put that in there and give it a little bit of an honest critique. And maybe 2026 is not when you redo it all. Maybe it's good enough to get you through 2027 or to 2028, but you want an honest assessment of where your brand materials are, where your brand is, and what's your social and digital audit or presence like. So audit that and give an honest assessment of it. Very important, competitor landscape review or competitor analysis. So I want you to pick 3 or 4 competitors, pros and cons of each. What are they very strong at? What are they, where's their, what are they not strong at that you can kind of use as a way to get more exposure or have a competitive advantage over them? Again, pick 3 or 4. This is highly insightful. We do this in every strategy we have. Go through their web, go through their brand, go through, you know, uh, their PR and so forth. And I think what you're gonna see with a lot of them, maybe there are some polished competitors out there, but a lot of them, they don't have that thermostat. They just have that on off. 2024, they're on. Maybe they haven't done anything in 2025. So just give a assessment of them as well. Audience profiles, we call this personas. You want to detail your audience. And if you have a wide audience, if you're like an engineering firm, you work with a lot of different audiences, pick the ones that you want more business from. Okay. Just pick 3 or 4 audience profiles or personas that you, part of the business you want to grow. And let's say we are in architects, engineer. Let's say we're a commercial construction company. Okay. These personas might be a hypothetical civil engineer, a hypothetical architect, and maybe a facilities manager, maybe a developer. Okay. And we're going to detail out what's important from a marketing perspective, what qualities of our company are important to them, what branding qualities are important to them, and also, what marketing channels are most effective for reaching them. And then I suggest putting it away for a week. Okay. Do everything I've said so far, put it away for a week, digest it, think about it. You're going to be thinking about it in your sleep and then come back. And that's when we have our section of what are the tactical plans? What are the tactics we're going to do in the next period as part of our marketing? And then of course, just knowing what are you going to be measuring and what are your success, what does success look like and what are your KPI? What are your key performance indicators going to be? Okay, we are moving fast. We have a lot to cover. I'm going to keep going. After we have a strategy, I suggest we have a model, and it can be a simple model of what is our marketing going to be. My model, I call it the Halo Loop. I'm very into psychology. I'm very into the psychology around psychology and advertising, psychology and marketing. And I call it the Halo Loop because we are a branding agency. And it's really after this concept in psychology called the halo effect. And it really works into branding. And the halo effect is really one standout impression of your brand evaluates, your whole organization and how customers are going to perceive every interaction that follows. So one good brand impression, the user, the buyer, the client assumes that quality for the rest of your organization. Okay. So that's the halo effect. And that is why, that first brand impression is so important. And I just have a couple notes. Okay. It sets the tone. It makes people assume that everything else is at the same level. Beautiful, great website. Ooh, everything else in the organization must be at the same level. So we have a model that I call the Halo Loop. Let me open it up here. And, for some clients, we do make this more complicated, but I wanted to keep it simple really for our discussion here. And, Franco, if you're having trouble seeing my screen, please message me. So within our model, we have entry points. This is, what's the first entry points are, think of it as inbound marketing. How do individuals start to learn about our firm? Okay. These are entry points right here. We'll go specifically over them a little bit more in a second. And then we have brand foundation. And here I have, this might be our website, our social, our digital and print ads. And this looks like a license, but right here, it's actually a business card. Okay. Business card, RFP, brochures, and so forth. And then we have this internal piece that you all in your operations are responsible for. I'm going to call it the qualification and close. And from there, users and clients, they can get distracted and lose their way, or we can close the sale and get a new client. We can get a new client. We can get a new employee. So it's not just sales. It's also recruitment. This can be used for. Now, if we don't make a sale, and we'll talk about how many touch points it takes sometimes to make a sale. We want to be able to market to them again. We want to keep reaching out to them. We want to get them in our ecosystem here. So we call that the continuity cycle. Okay. So this is a very basic model of how marketing works within professional services. So we have our entry points, public speaking, and during public speaking, we might talk to someone after and they give us their business. We give them our business card. That is the brand. That's our first brand impression. Boots on the ground might be the same thing. Referrals, they might come check us out on the website, or they might come check us out on social. SEO, they're probably going to our website. Social, they're going to be looking at our social. Public relations, they might be going to our website or social again. And advertising, they're going to be looking at our ad. And within the brand elements, we have, our website, our social, our advertising, all our collateral. And then within the qualification and close, this is where we have our sales presentations. We have our RFPs. Maybe we have a corporate video we send. That's where all those things are. And then in the continuity cycle, this is in professional services, retargeting is kind of I don't know, it's a dirty word. Okay. Doesn't have the best connotations. So that's why I renamed it here, but we can have a subtle retargeting campaign. Believe it or not, you can have a subtle or appropriate Google ad or even YouTube. We've done it within professional services, retargeting campaign. Maybe we email market to those prospects until they come back. And, maybe we have social retargeting, just a light, simple touch. Maybe it's on LinkedIn. We capture this data and we reach back out. So the point here is we really got to make a model of what our marketing system is going to be. And I'm going to break down some thoughts on each one of these stages. But the takeaway here is I get a tool and model it, break it out. What is your marketing system? What is it, your marketing program look like? Let's talk high level. We just talked about strategy. We just talked about modeling our marketing. Now let's go into some tactics. And I'm just going to start at a high level. Okay. This is, I'm going to take a quick sip of water here. This is from the Institute of Practitioners in Advertising. And I love this statistic. Senior level creative direction improves, say, marketing effectiveness by 30 to 50%. And in professional services, we're very timid about what we put out there because it has to, trust is so important, credibility is so important. It has to live up to the work we do. It has to not be tone deaf. It has to fit in the industry voice. So senior, having a senior level person and the creative they do being that more effective, it just makes sense. Now, just at a high level, I'm going to go through these quickly. We talked about two of them. Develop a strategic foundation. Start with a strategy. And then I implore you to map your marketing cycle. Don't overcomplicate it. Just, it can even be on a whiteboard. Just take a picture of it when you're done. Just map it out. It's very insightful. And what you'll find is maybe you have a long-term map and you have a short-term map. Here's the short-term things that we need to do. Here at Brassbound, one of our mottos is crawl, walk, run. So here's crawl, here's walk, here's run. Now, a tool that we use and I implore you to use, whether you have an external team working with you, an agency or a freelancer, or you're working internally, build a brand alignment board. Okay, this is, I think, the last step: strategy, mapping the marketing cycle, and then build a brand alignment board. And this is just, it looks like a mood board if you've ever created one. It's, you can use a tool like I just showed you, and you're going to put pictures that you like, that you have. You're going to put social media posts that you've done that you like. You're going to put social media posts you've done that you don't like. You're going to put notes about what has worked and what hasn't worked. Is there, let's say you're in hospitality and the menu's not checked, and we put out something and it's not even on the menu, okay? The pitfalls are detailed out on this mood board of what are the potential things to go wrong. Aspirational brands, competitors, national organizations, what are some social media posts that we like? And we're going to make notes on what we like about them. Building this board is just so, and it's so helpful and so insightful. And make it visual, because whoever's working on your account is going to be a creative person, is going to be a visual person. Okay. So again, it's just almost think of it like a bulletin board. We're just tacking stuff up there, stuff we like, stuff we don't like, and stuff that is an absolute no. Make sure it's all up there. And then also in there, import your brand voice document, import your brand strategy, import your brand guidelines, have all of those in there for everyone on the team. There's no excuse to go through this nice bulletin board. We have everything. Now, that statistic I just shared about, the senior level creative, if you're working in professional services, and we're talking about marketing without compromise, and we're talking about some of the things that we said we see and we hear, a lot of that is from not investing in senior level guidance. So we want a senior level person, whether it's a consultant, a member of the agency, or someone internal at our firm, to review things before they go out. And that's for make sure technically, that's for the brand and really the industry voice as well. And then just lastly, at a high level, prioritize quality over quantity. Okay. We don't need 8 social media posts in professional services every month. It's certainly appropriate, but we want to first start with quality over quantity. Maybe start with 2. We don't need 8 articles a month. Maybe start with 1 a month. Okay. Less is going to be more in the beginning. We're trying to put an active presence out there to reinforce our brand and to show that we're an active company. Okay. We don't need 8, we don't need to just fire off all these low quality posts. We want quality over quantity. This quote speaks to that. And it says, inactive or inconsistent digital presence reduces trust for 61% of buyers. This is the Edelman Trust Institute. They do surveys really that are applied to marketing, advertising, PR, and branding. This is why we're here. We all know this. We all know an inactive or an inconsistent digital presence reduces trust. When we're evaluating a law firm or an AEC company or an accounting firm, we go around and they haven't done anything since 2023. There's something in us when we make that a judgment there. So that makes complete and total sense. So we're talking about an active presence. We think entry points, and this is the first step in my model. You can also think of it as inbound marketing. So we have boots on the ground, social, advertising, search, PR, and then outbound. So I guess with boots on the ground, my tips are going back to, we talked about modeling and strategy. we have to, as marketers, as leaders, factor in what boots on the ground efforts and what outreach efforts are going on in the firm. That needs to be in our strategy, and these individuals need to they need to be supported. They need the business cards. They might even need the scripts for the personal outreach. So commonly, professional service firms, when we're building a marketing plan, when we're building a model, the boots on the ground and the outreach are on there. What associations are we going to be involved in? And commonly, and this is a topic that needs to come up every month. It's not just do these associations make sense anymore? Should we even be networking involved in them? Are we focused on the right associations? And making sure again that those individuals have the right collateral for when they're out there. And then personal outreach. Again, are we focused? Do the attorneys need a guide of how, if they are going to do outreach, do they need a guide of what that looks like and what's appropriate, what's not? AEC, does the CEO need some scripts to send out when they're trying to get meetings with architects, engineers, and developers? These are the types of things that we need to think about in our marketing plans, and we're building our model. We need to make sure that boots on the ground and personal outreach are talked about, are in there, are living, breathing parts of our marketing strategy. We just talked about this social media presence. I have one of our posts for Perkins Thompson, one of our law firm clients, and this one got a lot of engagement. We don't post 12 times a month for them, but what we do post does get engagement. I mean, I think this one's at 170 likes right now. So again, less is more. Taking the time, creating higher quality content, and not just blasting out stuff for the sake of putting it out there. And on social and in professional services, one little tip right now, we are having a lot of success with boosting on LinkedIn, not creating a LinkedIn campaign and, outside, just boosting our organic posts for clients. We're something with the algorithm right now. We're having a lot of success for clients right now. So that's just a little digression. But I wanted to mention that. With advertising, here's my thing. In professional services, we shy away from it. We don't necessarily shy away from print. We don't shy away from sponsorships, but we shy away from digital and social. And that's because we don't want to feel gimmicky, right? And that makes sense. But, with senior level help and expertise, we can advertise digitally and on social media. Like here we are advertising on social media for this client. We could do it in a subtle, appropriate way for professional services. And part of that I have listed here is frequency capping. So making sure people only see it a certain number of times. Part of that is the creative we're using. And part of it is really those are the two things. Frequency capping. We're not going to send this to people 30 times. Cap it. And just making sure the creative is really top notch as well. So just a foundational item, search and website visibility. Here's what we're saying to our professional service clients all the time. Reviews are big. A meeting I had yesterday, the client had 171 reviews, which was great, but they got those reviews by doing nothing. So we'll still create a guide for their team to be able to elicit more reviews. Same thing in the law world. That's tough. We don't want to be bugging clients to get reviews. But commonly we've kind of given a guide for attorneys to use of, here's the appropriate time to ask for a review. And if you're a law firm and your competitors have 2 reviews, and slowly over time, you can get up to 20 or 40 or 60 or 80. It is something that is really driving search engine optimization. So it's something that we recommend, and we're always talking to our clients. Now, also with search and website visibility, we're talking about marketing without compromise. And, that really comes down to an active presence. And we want to have articles come up on our website. We want fresh content. quality over volume. Even if we can do one a month, that's great. Even if we can do one every other month, that's fantastic. But getting fresh quality content on the website is very important. With all our clients, we also just some low hanging fruit in SEO. I'm just going to mention technical SEO. Okay, that's how your website's performing. That's what we provide that for clients. I recommend it. It's a low hanging fruit, and then just using a service that's going to help with some building some authority. Like we're Yext marketing partner, so look for Yext. A program like Yext that's just going to aggregate your company's information across a bunch of online directories out there. So that's a lot. That was a lot right there. But with public relations and earned media in professional services, we got to reach out to our industry publications, our local business publications, get the editorial calendars. Okay, here's when the law issue's coming out. Hey, let's pitch, some of the shareholder attorneys, or let's pitch the CEO of our construction firm here for this. So just always be on the lookout for earned media. So just in the interest of time, I will skip ahead a little bit here. 2 points before we go on. And I've shared this first one. This is not the first webinar I've shared this on, because we're going to be talking about brand right now, but 75% of users judge credibility based on a website design alone, and that is from Stanford. The second one, people form a first impression of a website in about 50 milliseconds. So we are wired as humans from evolution to make judgments very quickly. And I brought up the halo effect, okay? These two just show how quick our prospective clients, our users, make judgments about our brand, about our firm, about our collateral. It's in an instant. So I found those pretty insightful as we go into talking about brand. And so I have over here, this is a brand that we're working on for an insurance agency. And, it's always important to, have your voice. And we talked about this earlier, your brand voice defined, and, have elements like your brand strategy and your brand standards. Your standards you can send to a vendor who's making a new sign or making, something in your office. Then they'll know how to use your brand. Your voice, if it's defined, you can give to vendors. Maybe a vendor's working on your social media, or maybe you have some native advertising in a local publication. Having those documents really helps make sure that your brand is consistent. And then also, making sure that you have unified visual identity, your website, proposals, presentations, ads, social, all unified, all one standard, and all completely consistent. And then after we have these two, we need to make sure we have internal alignment. And for us working within professional services, we see that a lot of times as, an executive committee works with the agency on developing these things. And then they're talking about it at retreats. They're talking about it at holiday parties, at meetings. It's always a conversation that keeps coming up, talking about, the brand messaging and voice. So those are just 3 quick things that, every professional service company should be thinking about when it comes to branding. So in the within our model, what we call qualification and close, just 2 things that are important. Just making sure that your team members, they have all the professional collateral that they need. The case studies, the RFP template for submission, resumes, bios, all the professional collateral they're going to need, making sure that they're supported and that they have it. And then again, just having them know the brand voice and having it be part of the conversation. Now they're going to know how to talk privately about the brand and then about the work that you do. Okay, so now we're going to talk about one of the most important aspects, and that is the continuity cycle, or retargeting, or reaching back out after a prospect has entered into our ecosystem. So this is a quote I liked from HubSpot. And it's, when it comes to the number of touch points necessary to guarantee prospecting success, there's plenty of evidence that suggests response rates rise with each outreach attempt. And statistically, across a broad spectrum of data, the number of touch points is around 8. Okay, so HubSpot, with all their data, they're telling us that we really need 8 touch points before a prospect becomes a client, or reaches out to us. So with that in mind, that's why continuity, that's why retargeting, that's why being top of mind is very important. And I'm going to just start here. I'm going to move around a little bit, but starting with remarketing, retargeting. So that is, we have data on who follows us on social media, on who interacts with us on social media, on who has visited our website. Remarketing and retargeting is the idea of serving our organic social media posts, or serving a display ad or a new corporate video we just came up with, maybe on social or YouTube, using that data to serve people who have interacted with our firm, and who have come into our ecosystem. And it does, remarketing and retargeting does elicit in executives' minds, especially in business to business, gimmicky B2C marketing. But, you know, with the right creative and doing it in a subtle, appropriate way, it's a very effective within professional services. So I really recommend that you have some form of remarketing, retargeting in your strategy and in your marketing program. Email newsletters, value, not volume. So quarterly, bi-monthly, having attorneys update on who these should go out to, or having the CEO of an AEC company, or the business development person, update our list so that they are getting these professional touch points from us. Having business development individuals, just giving them some tools to make sure that they do follow up with individuals is very important. Individuals that they've had a consultation with. And then things just like, ongoing PR and visibility. This just helps, because if our prospect saw an ad came into our ecosystem, there's a good chance they're still reading that publication, and they'll see, future ads, they'll see future PR, and that's just going to be another one of those touch points that eventually helps build our awareness. In architects, engineering, and construction, for very growth focused firms, we do recommend CRMs. We do have clients that have been very successful adopting a marketing system like we're talking about, and pairing it with boots on the ground and a CRM, and being very successful. So making sure the team has a CRM, is keeping track of the contacts, has pipelines to update where things are, is very important, and has a very high return on investment. So some key takeaways here. I have build credibility before volume. That's very, very clear. We want to be focused on quality, not quantity. Making sure that the things we're putting out are, in the right voice, on brand, and build trust for us. Control your first impression, the halo effect. Okay, every touch point, their first visit to the website, their first look at a business card, even seeing someone in your firm speak. These are the first impressions of your firm, and the halo effect tells us that a lot of assumptions are made by the user at that point about your firm. Create visibility across the full cycle. So we've got the entry points matter, but also the continuity or the retargeting matters as well. Be consistent, operate in a consistent system. Be a thermometer. Okay, we don't want to be turning on and off. We want a model, we want a program, and we want a system. And again, just to beat this in one more time, quality over quantity. So that is, like I said, going back to, you don't need 8 blogs, 1 blog a month. Start with, less is more on social. Even two a month shows an active presence in an active firm. I try to keep these to about 40 minutes, which I have. It's turning to the 40-minute mark right now. So that's great. I'm here. I know Frank goes on the webinar as well. If you want to continue the conversation, please reach out. These are conversations we love to have. So feel free to email me to touch base. My phone number's there. Feel free to text or call. Follow Brassbound. We're on LinkedIn. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. We do one of these pretty much a month. So be on the lookout for the next one. I really enjoyed having this conversation and sharing some knowledge, and I look forward to connecting with all of you. So thank you very much for joining.